Hi everybody. This video is responding to questions about unexpected surprises and conflicts that arise in relationships between aging parents and adult children when care is needed, and there are a whole host of different situations. If you are a caregiver, you know that it's challenging to plan for things that you cannot possibly imagine. If you are an older adult who needs care, you may have cared for your elderly parents without any bumps in the road. Today, life is so much more complicated. When aging parents and adult children come back together as a result of care needs, being objective and transparent about feelings, situations, conversations, and needs can be hard to do because health and money and care and legal matters, these are all very personal things. Caregiving relationships between aging parents who want to remain independent and in control of their lives and who need a little help from adult children can be complicated for so many reasons. There could be a lack of trust. Family secrets may exist. Adult children in the family may not all get along, or aging parents can have one or two favorite children. If you are an adult who values your privacy, you may not want to tell your children or anybody in your family or even your friends how much money you have. You may not want to discuss your health problems with them or have them help you with any of this. If this is the case, it may be more comfortable for you to discuss your personal concerns and your planning needs in confidence with an elder care advisor or power of attorney protector such as myself. The one thing I do know for certain, based on my many years of professional experience that I'm going to share with you in this video, is that care situations can be unpredictable. Things you think will happen don't, and things you never imagined can happen will. What is important is that you plan to prevent problems, to anticipate problems, or when problems exist, you don't ignore them. You work to resolve them. So in this video, I will share unexpected surprises and conflict situations from my years of professional experience that arise in these relationship challenges between aging parents and adult children. These are situations that you should know about so that you can prevent them, or if they happen, so that you know it is possible to work through these situations. So stay with me. I'm Pamela D Wilson. I am a caregiving expert, advocate, speaker, and consultant who has served in the role of care manager, legal and financial roles for clients for more than 20 years. I advise and consult with families, caregivers, and aging adults about health, legal, and financial matters that come with aging. So if you are married, if you're never married, and you don't have any children, I can help. If you're married and you have children, I can help too. Please like this video, follow my channel, and comment below. It helps other people find their way here. You can also go below, check out the links. You can learn more about my professional background, how I help families, caregivers, and individuals experiencing care issues in families who are having issues, those who want to plan for the future. There's also a link where you can schedule a one-to-one consultation with me. So why is it so important to talk about being proactive to anticipate and navigate conflict in care situations? We're talking about it because if you are in a conflicted situation, it's emotionally distressing. It's anxiety producing. It's worrisome. There may be conflicts that you know need to be resolved, that you just don't have the physical or the mental energy to work through. Maybe you don't have the experience or knowledge to work through them. This is where I come in to play. When decisions are made on an emotional basis without considering all the facts or the options, or you're emotionally up and down, back and forth, and you're not sure what to do, those decisions can not turn out so well. They cannot turn out the way that you hope or expect. Avoiding conflict in a family or having secrets can mean that situations become so much worse. And then, what if you are the power of attorney and you don't want to deal with them? Well, your lack of doing something or not doing something can put you in a position of being neglectful. So I'm going to share some surprises and conflicts. The first one is the one that starts all of this, and it is really what I call the effect of lifelong habits on health. And this is a big one because no one can turn back the clock to be 5 years old again and have all of this knowledge about the lifelong effects of health habits. A person who watched one of my videos recently shared this story for them. They were saying that getting older is just so exhausting and it requires a lot of physical and emotional energy. This person had a lot of health problems and they struggled with not having the energy to do anything about them. Depression was also a concern, and this made it even more difficult for this person to want to even try to do anything to improve their situation. It's true. Individuals who are depressed or anxious or worried or just mentally distracted can have a harder time gathering information, making decisions, taking care of themselves, and taking care of other people, and being proactive. And this includes people on both sides, the caregivers, the care receivers, and people in the family. This situation of being physically and emotionally exhausting is distressing for anyone who needs care. It's distressing for any caregiver because it can be difficult to navigate doctors and hospitals and the healthcare system and insurance companies and staff at assisted living communities. It can be difficult to navigate money and manage family relationships. It can also be very difficult for a family caregiver who has their own life and their career and their own friends, and they feel pulled into a situation that is taking a lot of time and mental and physical effort. As this caregiver, you know there are things you should be doing. There are things you should be investigating, but you don't have the time and you don't have the energy to make this all happen. Now, on the other end, you're the person with the health problems. Imagine, if you are the caregiver, what it might be like to be looking at the end of your life. Instead of looking forward to what might happen next month or next year or the future, imagine that because you have mental and physical and health or financial limitations, that you are very limited in your choices. All you're doing is what you can do to get out of bed every day, what you can do to survive, instead of what you want. Now, admittedly, caregivers can feel exactly the same way. They can feel so burdened that they just can't see the future. So planning early for aging and potential health concerns helps you avoid getting into any of these conflicted or emotionally distressing situations that you never imagined would happen to you. Now, years ago, before I began my professional career in aging and caregiving and health and legal advising and all of that, I volunteered as a friendly visitor to an elderly woman named Billy. She was homebound, couldn't get out of the house. Her brother brought her groceries once a week. And in addition to her brother, and maybe an occasional nurse who visited once a week, I was the only person who saw this woman. She had breathing difficulties, she had congestive heart failure, a lot of health problems. But even with all of these challenges, she was amazingly cheerful and delightful and happy. She was lucky, though. Her mind was sharp as a tack, and she was optimistic, even though she had so many health problems. We should all be so lucky to be in that situation because so many people are not. In my professional life, I had so many other clients who lived alone and were anxious and distressed. They lost their entire savings to lotteries and scams and charities or unscrupulous people who wanted to help, maybe from their church or somebody down the street. They also struggled to manage their health issues. Aging can mean that you become more vulnerable to interactions with other people. You're more easily swayed to do things. This is more likely to occur when you are isolated or depressed or have health problems that are difficult for you to manage. Because when older adults, or really any adult, has no one to call that they trust, no one to call to talk about their concerns, even if they have a family caregiver, they can become more vulnerable to exploitation, more dependent on the people who take advantage of them. And these people can neglect or be abusive. Few people talk about these effects of lifelong health habits on life in middle age and in retirement and after that. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I strongly encourage everybody to take a serious interest in learning about health and nutrition and exercise. Become as active as possible so that when you are older, unlike the woman who commented about my video, you can be physically and emotionally strong. You can work through any health, financial, or legal challenges that happen. Now, I also recommend planning for aging issues, health, money, and legal. The ones you expect and the ones that you don't expect. Specific to the effects of lifelong habits on health, if you are the caregiver, take care of yourself so that you do not eventually need care. Or if you do, learn from caregiving and how to plan for yourself. If you are an adult child in this situation, you're watching an aging parent's health decline, it's emotionally traumatic. You don't want your parent to die. You want them to make an effort to try to get better. But sometimes, depending on how long a health diagnosis has gone on without attention, maybe your parents ignored it, maybe they didn't realize what was happening because they never went to the doctor. You as that caregiver, or even as a spouse, may have to accept that no matter how much you want to motivate your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, to take better care of themselves, they can't or they won't. So the situation of wanting to help another person and feeling hopeless or helpless because they can't or won't help themselves, it's distressing. You may be a spouse, an adult child, or a friend having this experience and feeling that there's nothing you can do. Well, there are a lot of things you can do. If you invite an independent elder care advisor with health, financial, and legal experience into discussions. The second unexpected surprise or conflict is being in a blended family, which happens more often these days. What happens when you are the parent who needs care and you have multiple sets of children in the family who didn't grow up together and who may not even know each other because you remarried and you have stepchildren? Or you may be an adult child with birth parents who divorced and remarried. So you have your birth parents, dad remarried over here, mom remarried over here, and you have all these stepbrothers and sisters. Well, this can be really challenging when one of these parents need care and it was too late. You didn't really establish a relationship with your multiple stepbrothers or stepsisters. And now somebody needs care. Questions that arise in blended families. Who will step in to provide care? You, your stepbrothers and sisters over here, or your stepbrothers and sisters over here? Did your mom or dad think before they remarried to set up a prenuptial agreement or keep marital assets like a home or money separate to provide for their care? If not, which spouse is paying for which spouse's care? Which adult children are involved? Who did your parent and the step-parent appoint as power of attorney or a successor power of attorney? I have known couples who have gotten divorced, and an ex-wife or an ex-husband steps in to care for that person when they need care if they never remarried. So if this is your family situation, and really in any family situation, having conversations early to talk about planning, if there is no plan, is very important to dealing with all of these potential family conflicts that can arise when people are married or they get divorced or widowed and they remarry, and you have all these new people in the mix. The third unexpected surprise is navigating a lack of care in your family between your parents or your parent and a step-parent. So let's say that one parent cannot take care of the other parent who is sick, maybe because of their own health issues or the emotional stress of the situation, and the caregiving parent is neglecting or abusing the other sick parent. So maybe they're not taking them to the doctor. Maybe they're not making sure that they take medications. Maybe they don't fully understand what's going on with their health. Maybe they have memory loss and it's undiagnosed. Maybe there's no food in the house. I mean, there could be a number of things. Spousal caregivers are some of the most exhausted people I know. They don't always make good decisions, especially if they are depressed and exhausted and they're trying to manage their own health problems and they don't feel good. This is why somebody needs a caregiver. Your caregiving parent may need a caregiver. And this is especially true in marital situations and really any situation where those lifelong habits that I discussed at the beginning of the video, not exercising, not eating well, not taking care of your health, not going to the doctor for preventative visits, all those things that you could be doing, especially when those lifelong habits take a toll. A husband or a wife may never have been good about taking care of their health. They never went to the doctor. They never did preventative care because they felt okay. Why go to the doctor if you feel okay? You go to prevent things. Maybe your spouse or loved one never had any interest or activities. Maybe all they did was work and they never had a hobby like golfing or crafting or gardening or whatever. And maybe they never had any outside friendships. Maybe it was just the spouse. Today, this person who needs care may sit in a lounge chair in front of the television all day, and they expect you, the healthy spouse, to wait on them. They've got no interest. They have no activities because they never had any, and they're not interested in creating any. Maybe because they don't feel well. Maybe because they're depressed. Maybe because they've never done it and they don't know how to do it. And you, the caregiving spouse, the healthier spouse, you're thinking, this is not how I imagined my retirement years. I don't want to do this and I don't want to be the caregiver. So you recognize you're not a good caregiver. You're the children. You're watching all this happen. You realize that for whatever reason, it doesn't matter why, but your mom or dad is not being a good caregiver. Now, if the sick spouse is your birth parent, you may feel that your mom or dad was being neglectful. If the sick spouse is your birth parent and there is a stepmom or a stepdad, You may be pretty angry that this is happening, and you may feel a little powerless to do anything about it because it's a step-parent that you never really established a good relationship with. And they have kids, and their kids are looking at this, and they're not happy either. Put yourself in the shoes of this married couple for a minute. You remarried and you didn't do a prenuptial agreement and you didn't make any plans. Now, if you were the sick spouse and this was happening, would you want your children to step in and do something if your second husband or your second wife wasn't taking care of you, if they were neglecting your care or if they were denying you care because they didn't want to spend the marital money on a caregiver? Or what if there is a child appointed power of attorney and they're not following one of your parents' wishes? You're thinking, what can I do? You're thinking, wow, I'm an adult child, and what if I do something to take action against a neglectful parent? You're going to stir up a whole hornet's nest of conflict. And you don't want to do it because you don't know how to deal with it. Well, what I can tell you based on my experiences, if you do nothing and your sick parent is neglected or harmed, or maybe they have a fall and hit their head and they die, or some other type of accident happens, or they have Alzheimer's or dementia and they wander out of the home, if you don't do anything, your parent could die. Something serious could happen. Do you want that on your conscience? Will you feel guilty? There's a lot of guilt in caregiving. And that might be something definitely to feel guilty about. I should have done something. I know I should have done something. And I just put my blinders on and I ignored it because it was too much conflict. I didn't know what to do. Let's say that you are an only child, or maybe you're in a group of siblings and you see this happening. Again, do you do something or do you wait for disaster to strike? Many children, I will tell you, in families are emotionally torn about how to manage these complicated situations with parents that don't take care of each other, or one parent that doesn't take care of the other. If you're an adult and you're thinking about a second marriage, or you have already remarried, it is time to have these conversations with your spouse and your children and your stepchildren about needing care and paying for care. And if you have children, have you gone through scenarios, have you had conversations about, if I need care and my spouse isn't taking care of me, or your mom or dad is not taking care of me, I want you to do something. These are situations that families don't talk about, and for which aging adults and their adult children are totally unprepared to manage. So here are 3 more examples of unexpected different situations. The first, I was involved in many family situations where an individual wrote up their will and they decided not to give their estate to any family members, maybe because they didn't get along or they were estranged. After this person died, guess who showed up? The children, the family, nephews and nieces who never had contact with this person. But you know what? There's a pool of money and they want it. So they're going to go to court and they are going to contest that will. Know that there are things you can do in advance to prevent your will from being contested in court by family members you don't like and who you do not want to have your money, but who are going to show up after you die. Number 2, your dad, your mom, your brother or sister. They have had a caregiver for some time, and you were the power of attorney and you didn't feel that you needed to be very involved because they seem to be managing everything. But today, you look at the bank account and you discover that that caregiver has been stealing money out of your loved one's bank account. What do? Will you press charges against the caregiver and the agency the caregiver works for? Or are you going to look the other way and let this go because you think, you know what, it's none of my business. That's what my mom or dad or my brother or sister want to do. I'm not going to say anything about it. If you are the medical or financial power of attorney, what is your duty to this person? What if your loved one realizes this and they don't want to charge the caregiver for financial abuse? How are you going to prevent this from happening again? And the last one, probably the most interesting. A caregiver for your widowed parent, divorced parent. They're either living in their home or maybe in a care community. And they have a caregiver that you know and they really like. Well, that caregiver takes mom or dad on an outing to the county courthouse, and they have your parents sign a marriage license. They get married. That caregiver now is in love with your parent. They're married. They're going to move into your parents' home, or they're going to move your parent out of a care community to an apartment or buy a property where they both can live. Your mom or dad says they are in love with the caregiver. They had no idea that there would be financial or legal consequences to signing that little piece of paper. They wanted companionship because nobody visits them. Well, what do? Do you move forward to annul that marriage or divorce the caregiver and your parent? And how on earth do you work through that one? While these situations seem like they may never happen, they often do, even in the best of families. I know, because I have been involved in each of these stories that I have told you, and many others, that could have been prevented with some early intervention or planning. Conflict between aging parents and their adult children caregivers will happen when there are differences of opinion, gaps in understanding about what is important to each side, when expectations are not clearly laid out, or when some of these unexpected scenarios happen. I know it may be impossible to think that a caregiver would take your widowed mom or dad to the county courthouse and have them sign a marriage license. It happens. I know. It may be impossible to think that your healthy mom or dad would neglect care for your sick mom or dad. It happens more than you might think. I know it may be impossible to think that your brothers or sisters may disagree about mom or dad's care. You've always gotten along up until now. Or they may not agree to support their wishes if they are a power of attorney agent. I know it may be impossible as a caregiver to realize that someday you may be so burned out and exhausted that you're not making good decisions for the person that you were tasked to take care of. I know it may be impossible to think of going outside of the family for help, but sometimes it's necessary. I know that families are embarrassed to talk about these unexpected situations. The fact that they don't agree, the fact that they don't agree or get along, the fact that there are problems, because they share this with me when I meet with them. So while these situations may be emotionally and physically distressing, they are manageable if you don't ignore them because you don't know what to do, or you're afraid to do anything, or you wonder if you might be interfering or taking on too much. Unexpected situations are manageable if you know how to plan for them in advance by establishing relationships with an elder care advisor who has health, financial, and legal expertise. Unexpected situations are manageable if you have a problem and then you go to a person with expertise who can guide you on how to resolve these conflicts. I'm Pamela D Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. Please like this video, follow my channel, comment, helps other people find their way here. Go below, check out all the links to learn about my professional background and how I help families, caregivers, individuals, either planning for or experiencing care issues. I thank you so much for being here. I will see you all again soon in another video.